Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Sheena and I'm an illustrator and Etsy shop owner based in New York City. So as you can tell by the title of this video, we'll be doing a draw with me or a redraw of an old piece that I did over a year ago when I first got into digital illustration. As always, if you're not subscribed, you can do that below to keep up with my channel. And without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, so I took a look through my Procreate portfolio and decided to do this piece. This was actually the first digital illustration that I did in Procreate. And I want to say, yeah, I used a total of 2 layers. You can tell that I was completely new to this. And the date I have on here is September 12th. So I believe that was in 2018. Let's take a look. Yeah, so this piece was completed September 12th, 2018. So almost 2 years ago, which is wild. And it took me 4 hours and 30 minutes to complete. So yeah, this is the piece. So again, even though I do think it's a cute piece, there were just a lot of fundamental things that I didn't know almost 2 years ago because I was new to digital illustration. So I'm seeing certain things like the lack of layers and the fact that I didn't really do a ton of detailing. A couple of the facial feature components are off, little things like that. So I'm really looking forward to recreating this and I hope you all enjoy it as well. And lastly, if you want to see more about how I put my art together, my canvas details, the precise brushes that I use and why, I have all of that outlined on my Patreon, which I will also link below for you if you are interested. So that's about it. I'm gonna stop rambling and jump in, and I hope you all enjoy. So jumping right in, as you all can tell, this will not be a tutorial styled video. It is just a draw with me. But as far as the canvas that I'm using, it is 5,000 by 4,000 pixels and I'm using a CMYK color profile. And if you guys are curious as to why I use certain settings, certain colors, or the brushes that I use, again, you can check that all out on my Patreon. I do have it on the lowest tier, which is $2, and you can get access to all of my blog posts, sketches, and things like that. So now we are going to move right into the chatty portion of this draw with me around the topic of the harsh realities of why you may not be making it as an artist or as a professional illustrator. And this is not to, bash anyone or make anyone feel bad. This is me kind of talking to myself and just kind of telling you guys the lessons that I've learned being in this industry for about 2 years and finally getting to a space where I can say I do this for a living. I am a full-time illustrator and Etsy shop owner. So the first biggest takeaway that I think is probably the most important, whether you want to be an illustrator or maybe you make handbags, whatever it may be, is that you have to be super resourceful and not solely rely on other people to give you the answers. And I feel like this holds so true even today because I will go through comments on my page or on my Instagram and I'm realizing that a lot of the questions that people are asking are things that they could literally find on Google in 15 seconds or less. And it sucks because usually when people post those questions, they're waiting on a response to make their next move. And the unfortunate part about that is that you could be waiting an infinite amount of time for a creator to respond, which means that you're not progressing in your skills or in your journey as a freelancer. And when it comes to being resourceful, in my opinion, it's just taking all of the steps needed to find a solution before giving up on yourself. So even a simple question as to how do I get started with finding clients? Yes, you could try to ask me on YouTube and wait for me to have a moment to get back to you, but there are several other proactive things you can do, like start off on Google. I've actually found a lot of helpful blogs and articles from fellow illustrators on these exact topics. And from those forums, I've also been able to find outside resources like books. I recently purchased a book made by the Graphic Artists Guild, and it's basically a pricing and ethical guideline handbook. So everything you can imagine that you would need to know as an artist is in this book. And I'll be sure to list it below for you all so you can go out and grab it. But it has been hands down one of the most helpful tools that I've had with working with clients, understanding trademarks, and all I had to do was Google. So the answers are a lot easier to find. We do live in the digital age where everything you want to find is usually just a few clicks away. And so I urge you to not sit and wait for someone else to give you the answer, but to go out there and really find it. And let's say you have scoured every end of the internet and you still can't find the answer, then sure, you can reach out and try to ask someone, maybe even consider paying someone you consider to be a mentor for their time. You can also use reputable sources like Skillshare, or getting on YouTube and finding one of your favorite illustrators and seeing if they have information on it. But I feel like the fact that we are so lucky and privileged to live in a time where there is internet, there is just so much information out there for us to get. We just have to be proactive and we have to want to find those solutions. So as you continue your journey in becoming an artist or becoming a freelancer, just remember to always be resourceful. If a question pops up in your mind, take 15 seconds to really think of where you can find that solution, and fast. Okay, so the next harsh reality is that a lot of people are not giving themselves enough time to become great artists or to become reputable illustrators. And I follow an illustrator or an artist here on YouTube. His name is Ergo Josh, and I watch his channel start from like 3 people all the way up to like 100K now. I believe he surpassed that, but he does these videos that people request of him, basically like roast my art videos. And when he goes through people's Instagram profiles or goes through, their submissions, the common denominator is that a lot of people are just not giving it enough time. They're not practicing enough. And you can tell that they threw a piece together and just sent it to him, and there were just elements that are missing. There were colors that are missing. It just looks really scratchy and incomplete. And I think it just goes back to everything takes time and you have to be patient. So even as you watch this video and see me complete this illustration, if you look at the one that I did nearly 2 years ago, there is already an obvious difference. And that growth has literally taken me every bit of that 2 years to get here. And if you were to go into my Procreate and actually look at every single illustration that I have done, I want to say I haven't even shared 70% of them. They've just sat in a folder in my app and I have not showed it to anyone. And if you add up all those hours, it's probably well over 200 hours of just drawing all the time and trying to improve. So I think the biggest thing is you can create art that you don't have to throw up on your Instagram or put in an Etsy shop to just sell right away. A lot of the time it takes you just getting used to your style and how you do things before you're trying to profit off of your art. So I hope that makes sense. I guess if we think about it from a more general approach, imagine someone going to be a doctor. They have to put in a certain amount of time in school and then a certain amount of hours in like a residency program to finally meet with patients. So if you're considering that from an art standpoint, you have to put in the hours of drawing just random things or finding reference art and not being ready to sell it or to charge people for it until you really perfected your craft. And that's not saying that you shouldn't go out and try to seek clients as early as possible, but just be realistic about where you are with your skills. And that could possibly be a reason why you may not be getting as many clients right when you start. And my final takeaway is that you have to eventually get to a place where you're speaking to a very curated audience. So if you go to certain people's pages like Dina of Women of Illustration and also of Letter Shop, her mission is pretty clear. She's about body positivity, cannabis, and basically like women empowerment and feminism. Like that's what her whole page is about, and it's very clear. And this is something that I am struggling with even now, 2 years later as an artist, is finding that niche, because I still don't know where I want to be. But I would say overall, if you went to my Instagram page, it's kind of clear, like, okay, she's an illustrator who draws a ton of women of color, so representation. She's based in New York, and she tries to give like helpful tips about freelancing. Like that's basically where I stand. So as you start to develop your career and make a name for yourself, open a shop, start taking in clients, you have to become really clear as to what you're doing, who your audience is, and what is your distinct style. And that may take time. For me, I had to look at other artists and their work and their pages, or listen to their stories about how they handle clients. And eventually I kind of found my sweet spot. But it's all about that experience. You just have to spend a lot of time making mistakes. You have to work with a lot of clients for a lot less money than you expect in the beginning, and just learn to be okay with that. Because if your work is not quote unquote perfect, you can't expect someone to want to pay a premium price either. So we have to be really realistic with ourselves and where we are in our journey. At the end of the day, I'm still learning. I'm still not an amazing all-star illustrator. Like I'm still figuring out where I stand and what my style is and what I want to represent. But I would say, from having no professional background in this and literally just being self-taught and working extremely hard, I've gotten to a place where I feel like I'm finally becoming that illustrator that people can go to, or that refer other people to me. And that is such a good feeling. You want to be that resident illustrator that people can lean on if they're looking to get work done. So that's basically the chat for this video. I really hope that it has inspired you, or maybe just like put that fire under you to really go out there and seek answers and work extremely hard, and you will be able to take on more clients. You'll be able to open that Etsy shop. Just give yourself some grace, give yourself some time to gain experience, and you'll get there. I'm actually quite impressed. I was able to complete this illustration this fast, because it normally takes me like 6 to 7 hours to do an illustration. I'm very finicky, and I'm also a perfectionist. So yeah, I'm actually really proud of this one. So here is the finished result. I will say I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I just feel like I have grown so much, and I needed a video like this to kind of remind me sometimes. But once again, here is the older piece that I did in September 2018. So that's what my drawing skills were like. And then this is the piece today. And like I said, I still have to do a small bit of detailing, and then I think I may put it in my shop as a print. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with this. I hope you all enjoyed seeing my process as well. And I'm happy that I'm slowly getting faster, because this one took me a little under 4 hours, and it's basically done. It's 99% done. So thank you all again for joining me for this draw with me video. If you want to see more like these, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. And as always, if you want to see more behind the scenes, you can check me out on Patreon. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.